is offering new insights into human history and geography.
The Iceman, as he's known, has been the subject of scientific study since he was discovered in 1991.
For years, Ötzi the Iceman's death was wrapped in mystery. Now, new scans pull back the curtain, revealing a secret long buried in the ice. His final moments were not what we thought. They were colder, darker, and far more painful than we ever imagined. What happened to Ötzi? Join us as we reveal the truth, the frozen mystery of Ötzi. On September 19, 1991, two hikers were exploring the Ötztal Alps, a mountain range between Austria and Italy. As they walked on the melting ice, they noticed something unusual half buried in the glacier, a human body. Initially, the hikers thought they had found a recent mountain tragedy, but experts soon revealed that the body was ancient. The man they discovered had been frozen in the ice for over 5,000 years. He was later identified as Ötzi, named after the Ötztal Alps where he was found. His finding became one of the most thrilling archaeological discoveries in recent times. Researchers from around the globe were keen to examine his body and uncover more details about his life and the era he lived in. When scientists passed away Ötzi, they found out that he perished around 3,300 BCE, which makes him older than many famous ancient structures like Stonehenge and the pyramids of Giza. He was around 45 years old at the time of his death and stood about 1.60 meters tall, approximately 5 feet 3 inches. Ötzi had tattoos all over his body, created by rubbing charcoal into small cuts on his skin, which may have been for pain relief, similar to acupuncture. Researchers analyzed the contents found in Ötzi's stomach to determine his last meal. They discovered he had consumed ibex meat, wild goat meat, and a type of ancient wheat known as einkorn. Additionally, there were traces of fern in his stomach, which may have been for medicinal purposes or simply part of his food packaging. Each detail provided further insight into his lifestyle. Scientists were able to learn more about Ötzi's family and potential origins through DNA analysis. They found that his DNA belonged to a group called haplogroup Conef. It is interesting to note that his closest living relatives today are in Sardinia and the Caucasus region. This implies that his people were part of a larger migration of humans across Europe during the Neolithic period thousands of years ago. His clothing was a surprising find. Ötzi wasn't just wearing any old rags, he was dressed specifically for the mountains. His leggings were crafted from goat leather, his loincloth from sheep leather, and his coat from strips of goat and sheepskin. He even had a cap made from bearskin on his head. His shoes, made with deerskin on top and bearskin on the soles, were filled with soft grass to keep his feet warm and secured with leather straps. These shoes showed that Ötzi knew how to survive in the frigid mountains. Ötzi had an impressive collection of tools, including a valuable copper axe and a flint-bladed dagger. These tools suggest he may have been an important person in his community. He also had a longbow that was not yet finished, along with a quiver made from chamois hide holding 14 arrows. Only 2 of the arrows were complete with flint heads and feathers, the rest were still being made. Ötzi carried a backpack with useful items such as birch bark containers. These containers probably held hot embers wrapped in maple leaves for starting fires easily. He also had tools for sharpening his flint blades, a small grass mat or net, and special fungi. The fungi were likely used as tinder for fires or as natural medicines, possibly for treating infections. All of Ötzi's belongings indicated that he was executed for surviving in the wilderness, a proficient hunter, and knowledgeable about life in nature. Despite his expertise and careful planning, he still faced health problems. His body displayed signs of various health issues. He suffered from lactose intolerance, meaning he couldn't digest milk. Additionally, he had the oldest known case of Lyme disease ever discovered. His joints were worn out and painful, particularly in his neck, lower back, and right knee. The blackening of his lungs was likely due to prolonged exposure to smoke from open fires. Furthermore, his intestines were found to be infected with whipworm parasites. When researchers looked at Ötzi's fingernails, they discovered markings that indicated a difficult experience. These marks indicated that Ötzi had dealt with significant physical stress or sickness in the months leading up to his death. While these health issues did not directly cause his death, they provided insight into Ötzi's tough life, filled with hard work, challenges, and the need to survive in difficult environments. One major question still lingered. How did a man who was well prepared and familiar with the mountains end up dying by himself in a remote and icy location? Despite having his tools and clothes with him, his body was found frozen where he fell. Despite extensive research and findings, the mystery surrounding Ötzi's last moments still baffles researchers. His story provides a glimpse into a world from the past, while also highlighting that people back then faced similar struggles to those we face today. New discoveries that change his story. The tale of Ötzi the Iceman has long been a fascinating mystery. His frozen body, well preserved for more than 300 years, was found in the Alps by two hikers in 1991. Since that time, researchers have closely examined all aspects of him, including his tools, attire, and what he had eaten. These investigations have gradually revealed more about the life of this ancient individual. Recently, advances in DNA analysis have provided scientists with a better understanding of Ötzi's origins, identity, and lifestyle. The most recent research focused on Ötzi's genetic material. Scientists analyzed DNA from his pelvis to create a more detailed genetic map. This new genome is much improved compared to the one made in 2012. Previously, the study of ancient DNA was still in its early stages, and the technology was not as advanced as today. The old genetic map had some gaps and puzzling results. For instance, the earlier study suggested Ötzi's DNA had traces of Yamnaya people who only came to Europe after Ötzi's death. This was confusing and did not match the timeline. Nevertheless, scientists discovered in a recent study that the previous findings were not entirely accurate due to advancements in technology. The traces of Yamnaya DNA were likely contaminated by modern human DNA during testing. The new genome is more precise and does not have this issue. As a result, scientists were able to examine Ötzi's ancestry more clearly and obtain trustworthy results. The recent genetic analysis corrected a previous belief about Ötzi's genetic connection to people from Sardinia. The updated study indicates that there is no genetic link between Ötzi and people from Sardinia. When Ötzi's genome was compared with DNA from other ancient humans, it was revealed that he was closely related to early Anatolian farmers from modern-day Turkey. These Anatolian farmers had minimal interaction with the hunter-gatherer groups in Europe at the same time. This indicates that Ötzi probably lived in a secluded area where his community did not interact much with other groups. They also had limited mixing with neighboring hunter-gatherer societies. This finding helps researchers learn about Ötzi and how ancient human populations in Europe moved and connected with each other. Although these discoveries don't completely alter our understanding of Ötzi, they do provide more clarity to many aspects of his story. Researchers now have a clearer understanding of his actual genetic background, the origin of his ancestors, and the distinctiveness of his group compared to neighboring groups. Over time, almost every aspect of Ötzi's body and possessions has been extensively examined. His clothing, crafted from animal hides, provide insight into ancient attire. The tools and weapons he carried, such as a copper axe, offer information about the technology of his era. His weapons also indicate that Ötzi favored his right hand. Analyzing his stomach contents gave scientists an idea of what he ate before his death. These findings enable researchers to paint a detailed and intimate portrait of Ötzi's everyday existence. Ötzi's death used to be a mystery. When they first found his body, many people believed he had frozen to death in the cold mountains. However, in 2001, an X-ray revealed an arrowhead in his left shoulder, which would have been fatal. He also had a head wound and a defensive cut on his right hand, indicating a violent death. It is unclear why Ötzi was up in the mountains when he passed away. Some theories suggest he was fleeing enemies or on a mission, but the true reason remains unknown. Scientists were surprised by what Ötzi ate before he passed away. They used advanced technology to discover that his last meal was high in fat. His stomach contained meat from an ibex, a type of wild goat which is known to be fatty. In addition to the meat, Ötzi also consumed plant material, including medicinal bark. This indicates that he may have been trying to cure an illness or alleviate pain. Some experts speculate that Ötzi might have even eaten something similar to bacon, although it wouldn't have tasted like modern-day bacon. Life during the time of Ötzi was tough and uncomplicated. They did not have any spices, sauces, or modern methods of enhancing the taste of food. People had to make meals from whatever they could gather or hunt. Although his final meal may not seem appetizing to us now, it was packed with the necessary energy for surviving in the cold and rough mountains. As technology gets better, scientists think there are still more things Ötzi can teach us. His well-preserved body gives us a unique look into the past, giving insights into the lives, diets, and health issues of ancient people. Scientists are now interested in studying Ötzi's microbiome. the small organisms living in his body, to gain further information about his health and surroundings. Ötzi's story is similar to a challenging puzzle that has taken many years to piece together. Each new finding helps us learn more about who he was and the society he belonged to. With every advancement, we gain more insights into the past from his life and death, which adds to the captivating story that keeps evolving. A journey through death and secrets. In 2010, new information about Ötzi the Iceman was revealed. Many people used to think that Ötzi was just a man who had passed away in a tragic accident while trying to survive in the mountains. They believed his tools were used for travel and survival in the cold, and his death was sudden and unfortunate. However, a recent study proposed a different theory. Perhaps Ötzi's death was not accidental but intentional. His body may have been intentionally placed in the mountains and not left there by chance. His tools may not have been for survival, but for an ancient ceremony, preparing him for the afterlife. This new concept completely transformed the situation. Ötzi's demise may not have been a coincidence, but instead connected to a larger narrative. Finding him could provide insights into the burial practices and political strategies of ancient European societies. If this theory is accurate, Ötzi was not merely a victim of fate, but a significant figure in his community, potentially even involved in designating his tribe's territory. Scientists who analyzed the small traces of pollen on Ötzi's body made an unexpected discovery. The pollen indicated that he passed away in early spring, a time when the paths on the mountain were still covered in snow. His body may not have been buried immediately. Instead, it could have been left in an exposed but sheltered area for some time, where the cold air gradually dried it out. This drying process would have helped protect the body. Later on, when the mountain pass was more accessible, his community may have hiked up to the summit to properly bury him. They might have selected that specific location to demonstrate that the land was part of their tribe. Over time, changes in the snow and ice caused the grave of Ötzi to shift, leading to his belongings getting scattered. For centuries, his body was protected by the ice until the Earth's climate began to change. Eventually, the ice melted, uncovering Ötzi and his possessions for the modern world to see. This fresh interpretation resolves numerous previously puzzling questions. When researchers came across Ötzi initially, they observed that his footwear was not suitable for scaling high peaks. Additionally, his arrows were incomplete, and his equipment appeared too cumbersome for someone intending to travel rapidly. If he were on a mere survival expedition, these specifics did not add up. However, if his travels were indeed ceremonial, these unusual objects would be a good match. They likely weren't intended for practical purposes, but rather carried significant symbolism for his community. There are currently two main theories about Ötzi's story. One theory, known as the disaster theory, proposes that Ötzi was involved in a tragic accident and perished in the mountains due to the cold. The other theory, called the social theory, suggests that Ötzi's death and burial were intentionally arranged by his community as part of their traditions. The scientists backing these theories have been arguing for years, each presenting compelling evidence in support of their beliefs. This ongoing debate has played a role in maintaining public interest in Ötzi. Ötzi is now the most thoroughly examined mummy ever. Experts have collected numerous small samples from his body and belongings. They have utilized state-of-the-art technology to examine every minute aspect. In contrast to Egyptian mummies treated with special oils and wrappings, Ötzi's body was preserved naturally, which continues to astound scientists. Ötzi is remarkably well preserved compared to other bodies found in icy places. His skin and soft tissues are in great shape. Scientists believe his body dried out fast from being in cool, dry air before being fully covered in ice. This process, known as aeolian desiccation, could have occurred naturally or as part of a unique burial ritual. The materials found with Ötzi can be explained by both the disaster theory and the social theory. It is possible that Ötzi passed away and naturally dried out where he was found. Alternatively, it is possible that his people intentionally left him there, possibly as a sign of respect or to protect their land. Ötzi's body is currently housed in a unique museum in Bozen, Italy. He is preserved in a frozen glass display to prevent damage. People from around the globe visit the museum to see Ötzi and learn about his story. However, displaying Ötzi to the public comes with challenges, as keeping him safe and preserving his body is a complex and costly task. Those responsible for Ötzi must find a balance between showcasing him to the world and ensuring his protection. The tale of Ötzi remains intriguing because it offers more than just information about an ancient man. It provides insight into a past world and helps us comprehend the experiences of people who lived millennia ago. Whether he met a tragic end or was part of a significant ritual, Ötzi's story continues to resonate with us today. The story behind the Iceman's mysterious death. For a long time, it was thought that Ötzi the Iceman passed away a violent death. Scientists closely examined his body using various scientific methods when it was found. One significant finding emerged from their research. Approximately a decade after the initial discovery of Ötzi, advanced radiography was used to examine his body internally. This examination revealed a stone arrowhead embedded deeply in his left shoulder. This small object became the focal point of the story surrounding Ötzi's death. Many people thought that Ötzi was executed violently because of the arrowhead found near his body. Scientists speculated that Ötzi may have been attacked, chased, or ambushed based on the evidence. They believed that the arrow had struck a major blood vessel, leading to rapid and severe bleeding. It appeared that Ötzi passed away shortly after being injured by the arrow. For years, this story was widely accepted as the explanation. People started to think of Ötzi as more than just a lost man in the mountains. Some imagined him as a warrior, someone involved in tribal conflicts, or even a man who had been banished from his community and was desperately running from his enemies. The arrowhead was not the only clue that seemed to back up this idea. Researchers also discovered serious injuries on Ötzi's head. His skull had multiple dents and fractures. Some scientists believed these were indications of another attack, possibly from a club or another heavy object. It appeared that the arrow initially slowed him down, and then a final fatal blow to his head brought his life to an end. The tale of violence surrounding Ötzi became very well known. It portrayed his final moments as sad, agonizing, and filled with peril. However, advancements in technology over the years allowed researchers to revisit the ancient remains and search for new clues. With more advanced tools at their disposal, scientists re-examined Ötzi's body to ensure they had not overlooked any important information. Their goal was to uncover the truth about what truly transpired. Gradually, they began questioning the traditional beliefs. They utilized advanced techniques such as high-resolution CT scans to examine his body more thoroughly. These innovative tools enabled them to observe Ötzi's injuries in a way never seen before. Scientists from the University of Zurich spearheaded these new investigations, incorporating modern medical imaging to obtain clearer images of his bones and tissues. The findings from these recent studies were unexpected. The in-depth scans cast doubt on the theory that the arrow wound and head injuries were the main causes of Ötzi's death. The long-standing narrative began to seem less definite. When researchers examined the arrow wound more carefully, they discovered some new information. The arrow had definitely gone through Ötzi's left shoulder, but the injury to the surrounding tissue was not as bad as previously believed. They observed that while the arrow could have injured him, it might not have led to a quick death from bleeding. The wound displayed signs of healing, suggesting that Ötzi could have lived for some time after being gunned. This completely contradicted the initial belief that he passed away almost immediately. While examining his head injuries further, more uncertainties emerged. The skull fractures were authentic, but they did not definitively indicate that Ötzi was executed by a beating. It was plausible that his head injuries occurred due to a different reason, such as falling after he had already been weakened or even after his death. The previous theory that he was fatally struck with a final blow became less convincing as they delved deeper into the study. These fresh concepts raised further inquiries. If the wounds from the arrow and the head trauma did not directly lead to his demise, then what did? Could it have been the cold, fatigue, or sickness? The plot suddenly expanded, allowing for the introduction of new hypotheses. A new study serves as a reminder that uncovering ancient secrets is a process that requires patience. With each new finding, more uncertainties arise, and the understanding of a historical event can shift drastically with new information. The researchers investigating Ötzi are persisting in their research, examining the small details his body holds for more insight. Experts now think that the cause of Ötzi's death might not have been just a violent attack, but possibly a combination of different factors. It's possible that he was injured but still tried to keep moving. He might have also been dealing with bad weather, hunger, or illness. The difficult journey through the cold mountains could have had a negative impact on his body in ways that were not previously understood. Ötzi's death, which was originally believed to be sudden and violent, is now thought to have been a prolonged and painful ordeal. People around the globe are captivated by the twists and turns in Ötzi's story, which is constantly evolving. Scientists are gradually uncovering the secrets hidden in Ötzi's frozen body. The new research is changing our perception of Ötzi's death from a brutal attack to a lonely struggle for survival in a harsh environment. Ötzi's story continues to evolve, revealing that the truth is often different from our initial assumptions. A new look at an old mystery. Researchers used new and detailed CT scans to examine Ötzi the Iceman. They made an unexpected discovery. Many had previously thought that the arrow in his shoulder had executed him quickly. However, the clearer images revealed that the arrow hadn't penetrated as deeply as originally believed. The stone arrowhead caused a significant wound in his left shoulder, but it did not hit a major artery that would have led to rapid bleeding. A new study found that Ötzi did not lose as much blood internally as previously thought, only about half a cup. This amount of blood loss would have been painful and severe, but not necessarily fatal immediately. It would have made him weak and potentially hindered his ability to move his left arm properly. He may have also experienced difficulty walking quickly or climbing easily, but the injury alone probably would not have resulted in immediate death. This finding altered a significant portion of the previous beliefs about how Ötzi passed away. It spurred an important query. If the arrow did not cause his immediate death, what did? Researchers then focused on examining the injuries found on Ötzi's head. They carefully passed away his skull using advanced high-resolution scans. Previously, some believed that the indentations and fractures on his skull were caused by a forceful blow, possibly from another individual. However, the latest images revealed a different explanation. The characteristics of the skull damage suggested that it was more likely the result of a fall rather than a deliberate attack. It appeared to be more of an accident than a violent assault. Ötzi was walking in the steep and rugged mountains. The trails were rocky, bumpy, and extremely hazardous. It would have been easy to fall in such a location, especially for someone who is already weak and in pain from another injury like his arrow wound. He was also wearing parts of a fur head covering. While this headgear might not have completely shielded him, it may have lessened the impact a bit if he fell. However, the head injuries he sustained were not minor. They were severe enough to cause him significant pain and could have potentially caused dizziness or confusion. Despite these head wounds, there remained a lingering doubt. Would he have been able to survive both the arrow wound and the head injury if assistance had arrived promptly? Or did the combination of both injuries make it impossible for him to survive in that unforgiving environment? The account of how Ötzi passed away is now seen as more intricate than previously thought. While the arrow wound may have affected his speed and caused discomfort, it probably did not result in immediate death. The head injury seems to have been the result of a fall rather than an attack by another person. This fall could have been due to his weakened state, pain, or simply losing his footing on the treacherous mountain trail. If the arrow wound and head injury weren't immediately fatal, what ultimately executed Ötzi? A lonely battle against the cold. Researchers examined Ötzi the Iceman, who had perplexed the world, and discovered a different story. Initially, many thought he was executed swiftly by an arrow, possibly in a surprise attack. However, recent evidence indicated a much more tragic and agonizing scenario. Ötzi did not perish immediately from his wound. He succumbed to freezing gradually and without the ability to escape, up in the cold Alps. The theory that Ötzi passed away from being out in the cold makes more sense. The mountain where they found him has bad weather, especially back when Ötzi was alive. Scientists now think that he passed away there not because someone murdered him, but because he couldn't survive the freezing weather after getting hurt. The sad account of Ötzi's final moments is truly tragic. He was found with an arrow lodged in his shoulder, which must have been excruciatingly painful and made it difficult for him to move his arm. It's possible that he also suffered injuries from a fall, further weakening him. Stranded alone in the mountains, Ötzi likely had to endure harsh weather conditions. The cold winds may have intensified, or heavy snowfall could have made it impossible for him to flee. His body, which was already having a hard time due to the injury, might have started to lose heat faster than it could generate it. Hypothermia, a dangerous condition caused by extreme cold, began to take over. It is not a fast-acting killer. Hypothermia slowly takes hold. Initially, a person feels chilly and exhausted. Then confusion sets in, trembling begins, and muscle coordination deteriorates. Eventually, the ability to walk is lost. Gradually, the victim starts to feel overwhelmingly drowsy. Without warmth, The cold can lead to death as the person slips into unconsciousness and never wakes up. Ötzi went through a slow and painful process. At first, his body would have shivered uncontrollably, but then the cold would have taken over and even the shivering would have stopped. Being stranded on that freezing mountain, wounded and exhausted, he must have felt extreme loneliness. This kind of death, unlike a quick one from an arrow, made him suffer slowly until the very end. Scientists think Ötzi may have passed away shortly after becoming too weak to move, possibly within minutes or a few hours. Once hypothermia sets in, the likelihood of surviving decreases rapidly without adequate shelter or warmth. In the harsh weather conditions, Ötzi, who was already injured, probably had little to no chance of survival, especially without anyone there to assist him. Despite the new explanation stating that Ötzi's death was due to nature, it does not discount the possibility that he was involved in a confrontation before his final climb. The presence of an arrow in his shoulder and other injuries on his hand indicate that he may have been attacked or involved in a violent encounter. Although someone may have initially harmed him, it was ultimately the harsh conditions of the mountain that led to his demise. Additional evidence provides further insights into Ötzi's life before his death. Pollen grains in his stomach and specific markers in his teeth and bones indicate that Ötzi frequently moved between various locations. It is likely that he did not remain in one place for long periods of time. Ötzi was known to climb to high areas and then descend, potentially in search of food, in response to weather changes, or to escape from a pursuer. It is possible that he was accustomed to traveling over large distances, but his luck may have run out on his final journey. Why did Ötzi get gunned? That is still unknown. It could have been due to a dispute over resources, property, or something personal. What do you think about the new scan? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more celebrity gist. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.